is I want to go over, one free agent target that you guys are enamored with, or one guy that you think that you'd like for the Bengals to sign, and why. Uh, Daniel, I know you've been kind of like touching on free agency a little bit. You've been touching on some of these NFL draft prospects, and you and me have been watching a lot of film lately. Who's a guy in free agency that you're looking at that you'd like to see the Bengals sign, and why?
I'm looking at the defensive line, and I think that Baron Browning is the perfect guy for the Cincinnati Bengals. There is a specific spot that you can look at as a pass rusher, and there's some guys in the draft that we like, obviously the Josiah Stewarts of the world, but this is a guy that you're getting two main things for, right? You're getting the youth, dude is 25, turning 26, and you're getting the pure pass rusher. This is a guy where you're probably going to get a discount on him because he switched teams, right? He got traded from the Broncos, not for his play, but because the Broncos have 3 to 4 young guys that they are rolling with the rest of, for the next 2 to 3 years. And Baron Browning is a guy, like I said, a pure pass rusher. Out of college, he was, a linebacker and kind of doing pretty much everything. And he fits the role for what I think. You're not going to have to pay more than $8 million at most, I believe, a year. I would probably say 5 to 8 million, maybe do a 1 to 2 year, prove it deal. And you get a guy that can play 300, 400, 500 snaps and just be a pure pass rusher that I think the Cincinnati Bengals truly need. Whether that's, hey, you kick Miles Murphy inside, or you have Joseph Osai, you re-sign him, kick him inside, or you have those guys on, run heavy downs. Baron Browning, 250, 260 pounds, super light, flies around the edge. He is a pure pass rusher that, regardless of what you project to do in the draft, you cover your ass and say, hey, we at least added to the pass rush in free agency. So now in the draft, if we don't like one of the edges in round one, we can go offensive line. We can go cornerback. We can go, any best player available, but we're not forced to go and get a pure pass rusher in round one. So I think that Baron Browning fits because he's not a lock to go back to Arizona. So he's a free agent. He's not a lock to go to a specific place. I think if the Bengals made a pitch to him, I would be very strongly, for him. And I think that he would probably sign with Cincinnati Bengals if they made the pitch to him.
All I'm going to say is his dad retweeted my tweet. His dad liked my tweet. Baron Browning in Cincinnati would help feed the defensive line. That's what I would say. Logan, your thoughts?
Yeah, there's two guys I was going back and forth between talking about a little bit. The guy I'm going to go into a little bit is Malcolm Koonce from the Raiders. Unfortunately, Malcolm did not play in 2024.
What'd you say?
Unfortunately, Malcolm did not play in 2024. Got hurt in the last preseason game or in practice. I forget what it was, but there was clearly something that happened in the back half of 2023 that kind of just flipped a switch for him. From week 9 on, 8 sacks, 23 hurries is just pure dominance to me. That's one of the best stretches of football from any defensive players through that time, especially at the edge position. He's a little bit lighter, fits that kind of more of that pure pass rushing upside. Again, you're probably going to be able to get him at a little bit cheaper coming off an injury. Mm-hmm. He's a little bit different style, but he's a guy that just gets to the quarterback. He's a guy that if you can get him on a shorter term, cheaper deal, and he gives you that production of 2023, that back half of the year, you're reaping so many benefits, especially at the price point that he's probably going to be had. Still just 26 years old. Obviously, coming off the injury isn't the best thing, but I feel like when you kind of factor in the contract, the production that we saw the last time he played, the upside to it, there's not too many combinations of cheap production potential, like everything, that kind of ties in. Just unfortunately, it's just the injury kind of holding that back. But again, that could be a good thing, driving the price point down. But again, the Bengals just need pass rush help so bad. And he's, like Daniel said, he's a guy that's not going to stop you from drafting anybody else. He's not going to be a guy that, stops you from adding to the room. He's giving you I don't want to say upside because I don't want to act like he hasn't done it before, but he's coming off a dominant stretch the last time he played football. And if he can give you that production, or even just a little bit less than that production, he will more than return his value.
So I talked a little bit earlier about, Javon Holland would be a great ad, but obviously top free agent safety would be a great ad for him. But the guy I want to kind of highlight, if you're looking for a playmaker in a type of Al Golden defense, right? Someone who's going to be aggressive and going to be a playmaker, whether that's on the ball, at the point of attack. I'm looking at Trayvon Murray, who's just going to be turning 26 in this upcoming season. But in the last 2 seasons, he's got 5 interceptions and 18 passes defensed. and also has been pretty good as a blitzer, 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits over the last 2 years as well. Was top 15 among all safeties in interceptions, forced incompletion rate, tackles for loss, and for defensive stops. It's pretty good company to be in. Not going to be terribly expensive, probably about, I don't know, $5-6 million a year. You can swap him out with Geno Stone, get cheaper, get someone who has more proven ball production in back-to-back years, and feel good about where that ends up and takes you in the next couple of years as you figure out how this defense and this coaching staff, for that matter, are really going to shape up over the next couple of years.
I love that. I love that. Y'all are all cooking with some of the players you name. I got a guy that I was high on when he was coming out of the draft, and I'm high on him now. Milton Williams. Milton Williams.
Law Tech, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You want an opportunity to get a guy that it's funny. I just did. That's the, I don't want to, I don't want to get, that's the video we have dropping tomorrow, which is one of my next player profiles. We dived really, really deep into the numbers when it comes to a Milton Williams. You know what? Screw it. Let's talk about it now. Got Evan here. So the one issue that you're going to have with a guy like Milton Williams, so his numbers really, really jumped off the charts this past season, right? His run defense left a little bit desired. This is some of his grades from PFF. His run defense grade was a 41.7. Finished 116 out of 140 eligible interior defensive linemen. His pass rush was insane, right? His grade was a 91. He really stepped up in a big way. You can kind of point to the last couple of years. You obviously had guys like Brandon Graham, so on and so forth in there. So it was kind of hard for him to kind of steal opportunities. But with the injury to Brandon Graham, Milton Williams saw himself get an increased role this year. It's funny that his run defense grade was better the last 2 seasons compared to what it was this year. He's projected right now, Ev, to get like a 3-year deal. About
seven a year. Yeah. I mean, for
Yeah.
interior help, you're paying 10 for BJ Hill. You're paying 10 for Sheldon Rankins.
He's projected right now to get 21 a year.
Okay,
Milton is projected to get
21 per year or
21 per year, brother.
Oh yeah. You're right. I was like, I thought because one thing I'm sure you just talked about was he's played 30 to 50% of the snaps every season. So it's like,
that's just the Eagles though.
Yeah.
But
you end up with the Trey Hendrickson conversation, right? Of hey, literally, you come in. It's literally
it's how much of it was he benefiting from playing next to a generational player, Jalen Carter, right?
On pass rushing down, on obvious snaps,
Jordan
coming
Davis,
on fresh,
right?
Like
Vic Fangio's defense, because one could also say Vic Fangio's defense brings the best out of players. We saw, a guy that Evan just talked about, Javon Holland. His numbers last year under Vic Fangio's defense was incredible. Vic Fangio leaves, goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. They get a new defensive coordinator in there. His numbers plummet. He looks like a completely different player. And so you have to ask yourself how much of it is the talent that is around him plus the coordinator versus is this who Milton Williams truly is? My take on it, I think Milton Williams is closer to the player that we saw this year than he's not. That's what I think. I think Milton Williams at his best could be this player that we saw this year. We saw 40 pressures from Milton Williams this year. And interior defensive line is a player that is a position the Bengals have targeted the last couple of all seasons. It is a position that the Bengals are willing to pay. That being said, you got to ask yourself, will Milton Williams carry over that same success he had in Philly over to wherever he go, whether that's Cincinnati or somewhere else? And that leaves a lot to be discussed, if you will. That's just my thought process on a Milton Williams.